Hello and welcome to our lecture on the overview of entrepreneurship. I always like to start off with a quote that's one of my favorites by a well-known management consultant and writer, Peter Drucker. And he said years ago about entrepreneurship, most of what you hear about entrepreneurship is all wrong. It's not magic, it's not mysterious, it has nothing to do with genes. It's a discipline, and like any discipline, it can be learned. And the reason why I like this is that what we're what we try to teach in our entrepreneurship programs is to teach the process of entrepreneurship. How do you take an idea, vet that idea, assess its validity and feasibility, and then how do you implement it into a full-fledged venture and then grow that venture? Obviously, things like motivation and insight and other things that are more personal, we can't teach. We can just teach you how to take advantage of those things. So our objectives for this uh, lecture is to explain entrepreneurship and discuss its importance, describe the different types of entrepreneurship, discuss the three main reasons that people decide to become entrepreneurs, identify four main characteristics of successful entrepreneurs, and explain the 5 common myths regarding entrepreneurship. So some basic data, there's a tremendous interest in entrepreneurship around the world. We say in the United States, entrepreneurship is the backbone of our economy, and it's becoming that way all over the world. According to a recent Global Entrepreneurship Monitor study, about 330 million people, or 14% of the adults in 35 countries surveyed, are involved in forming new businesses. And it's been a few years since that study was conducted, and I would imagine that it's even larger now. So what is entrepreneurship? Well, the origin of the word entrepreneur comes from the word entreprende, which means to take on, and in this case, taking on risk. So the issue is you're taking on the risk between buyers and sellers and taking the task of starting a new venture. Now, just to differentiate a little bit between what an entrepreneur is and what an inventor is, they're not necessarily the same. An inventor creates something new. We talk about things like patents and first to market and all those issues. An entrepreneur puts together all the resources needed to make that a business, make that a successful venture. So that's the money, the people, the strategy, and the risk-bearing ability to transform that invention into a viable business. Sometimes the entrepreneur is not the inventor. Sometimes the entrepreneur buys the intellectual property or partners with the owner of the intellectual property to launch the venture. And we'll talk a lot about those issues in subsequent seminars. So in a formal way, entrepreneurship is the process by which individuals pursue opportunities without regard to the resources that they currently control. So it's a little bit of jumping off the cliff, so to speak. You have a really good idea, you have done a business plan, you've really vetted it out, and you don't always know how successful you're going to be, but you do your best guess and take the risk to launch. So again, the essence of entrepreneur behavior is identifying opportunities and putting those ideas into practice. And this can be done either individually or by a group. We often see when we think of famous entrepreneurs like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or many other entrepreneurs, those folks didn't just start the business themselves. Bill Gates had a whole team of individuals that either started with him or came on board very soon. And they're not the figurehead of the company, but they were just as much the entrepreneurs as was Bill Gates. And that happens in many companies where there's always people behind the scenes, but oftentimes one person becomes the face of the business. In general, in an entrepreneurship venture, risk is involved, but we talk about finding a process that minimizes or moderates this risk through really good preparation and business planning. So here's the 50-cent definition. Entrepreneurship is a dynamic process of vision, change, and creation. It requires an application of energy and passion towards the creation and implementation of new ideas and creative solutions. Essential ingredients include the willingness to take calculated risks in terms of equity, career, time, and the ability to formulate an effective venture team. Also, the creative skill to marshal needed resources, the fundamental skill of building a solid business plan, and finally, and most importantly, the vision to recognize opportunity where others see chaos, contradiction, and confusion. This last part is taken right from your entrepreneurship textbook or book that you're using in class. And this is an important point, the vision to recognize opportunity where others see chaos, contradiction, and confusion. We've all had ideas that in that aha experience, and in some cases we see it and we think, oh wow, this is something I really need to do. And other times there's so much noise around it that we kind of just forget about it, pass on it, and never think about it again. A strong entrepreneur latches onto an idea and can see through all the mess and all the noise and all the other conflicts around them and pursue that idea until they can get it launched. And they do that with a lot of passion. So when we talk about entrepreneurship, most of the time you probably think about starting a venture. Well, there's other forms of entrepreneurship as well, besides what I would call traditional entrepreneurship, which is the venture startup. One other type is corporate entrepreneurship. And in corporate entrepreneurship, it's the conceptualization of entrepreneurship at the firm level. All firms fall along a continuum that ranges from highly conservative to highly entrepreneurial. And so when we talk about an entrepreneurial firm, we're talking about how much they focus on new ideas, new business creation, business development, innovations, and those types of things. And so you can have an entrepreneurial mindset within the company as well, and have people focus on how do we do things better? How do we come up with new products and services? And this is a very hot topic today as firms try to grow and not become stagnant as technology advances past what they have to offer. In terms of a comparison of an entrepreneurial firm versus a conservative firm, we talk about three elements of an entrepreneurial firm. They're proactive, they're innovative, and they take risks. So proactive means they don't take a wait and see posture. They don't react to their competition. They get out in front of their competition. And they're always doing environmental scanning of the marketplace to look at new opportunities. Innovative means that their newness is important to them, that they don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again, but they want to explore new markets, new products, and move in that direction. And risk-taking is that they're willing to expend some resources to try to make this happen, knowing that just like regular, more traditional entrepreneurship, not every idea is successful. You think about firms that haven't acted entrepreneurially just in the most recent past, firms like Blockbuster, or what's happening with Barnes and Noble, or companies like that are basically out of existence because of their failure to adapt and innovate. Another form of entrepreneurship, which is a real hot one right now, is social entrepreneurship. And social entrepreneurship is finding innovative solutions to society's most pressing social problems. Now, one of the most famous examples of social entrepreneurship is the Tom shoes, where you buy one pair of shoes and another pair of shoes is given to someone in a poor country. That's a social venture. One of the misnomers is that social ventures are nonprofits. You can have a profitable social venture, but it has more than one bottom line. You don't measure the success of that venture just on profits, gross profits. You also measure it on impact on society in some way. So why become an entrepreneur? There's three primary reasons that we say that cause people to become entrepreneurs. The first one is to be your own boss. That's a common one that people, when you talk to entrepreneurs, will say, I really wanted to be my own boss. I got tired of listening to my manager or making a lot of money for another company and not me, those types of things. To have control. Now, again, the misunderstanding is that I control my own schedule and all those things. Well, especially in the early stages of a venture startup, your venture is your life. I mean, you're putting in numerous amounts of time and energy to get that venture going. And the venture basically controls your schedule. Now, once the venture is up and running and successful and you have a good management team and all those things down the road, then you can have a better grip on your schedule. A second reason is the desire to pursue your own ideas. A lot of times, people, when they're working for another company or organization, come up with really good ideas that the company doesn't really need. It's not in their current business strategy to go down that path. And you try to sell it to them and try to create your own niche there, but you constantly get frustrated. So then a lot of times you leave to pursue an idea. Now, sometimes those ideas have nothing to do with the company and you see it as a real important venture or something you could be really successful at. And so you work on the side until you're sure that it's worth giving up your current position for. And then financial rewards. We'll talk about different rewards and different types of entrepreneurial ventures, but you, in some sense, control the amount of rewards you get. By building your business, it can be exceedingly rewarding, or it could be what we call a lifestyle business, where you just basically start a venture that reaps you the rewards to maintain a certain lifestyle. But we'll talk more about that down the road. Three basic types of startup firms: salary substitute firms, lifestyle firms, and entrepreneurial firms. And this goes along with what your goals might be. And most ventures aren't started with the idea that I'm going to grow this into a 1,000 employee venture or a 5,000 employee venture or a Microsoft or Facebook or a Google or something like that. I don't even think the Facebook folks thought when they were starting that in a dorm room, basically, that it would ever grow to be what it is today. They were just trying to launch an idea and serve a certain target customer base. But a salary substitute firm is, I want to have more control. I want to be my own boss. I make, pick a number, $80,000 now. I want to make at least that. So that's where I want to grow my venture to, is at least replace my salary. Lifestyle firms are in the middle. I want to launch a venture that will get me to an income so that I can have the nice house, take trips, own a second home, those types of things. Whatever the lifestyle is you want, your goal, you want to launch a venture that will provide the income to do that. Then the entrepreneurial firms are the ones that are based on high scale and growth. And this is the launching a business that you really want to grow and become the multimillionaire when you sell it, or it reaps large profits. But like I said, in the beginning, while we all want high growth and high value firms, most ideas start in the smaller stages of, I just want to work on something that's my own. I just want something that gives me more control. Some characteristics of successful entrepreneurs. Talk about four basic ones: a passion for the business, product customer focus, tenacity despite failure, and the execution intelligence. And I'll just briefly go through these. The passion for the business, that's number one. I know there's more technical things, but if your heart isn't in it, if you're just doing this to make money and you're really not interested in serving a customer, you're going to burn out very fast. So having a passion for the idea, having a passion for building a team, having a passion for launching it and really servicing your customer base and then growing that business is important. Related to that is product and customer focus, especially the customer focus. Everything you're going to read about entrepreneurship says manage your venture from the customer in. So when you are designing and writing a business feasibility study or a business plan, you need to constantly focus on your customers and talk to them. Good market research can start with some basic surveys, some just basic discussions, to focus groups, to large-scale surveys, all kinds of things that will get customer feedback to make sure you're meeting the needs of your customer. And also focusing on product ideas. One, you don't want to be a one-trick pony with just one product out there. You want to have a more what we call multiple revenue streams at some point. Now, initially at launch, you may not, but down the road, you always don't want to be dependent on one revenue stream. Some basic common myths about entrepreneurs. You hear this all the time, that the first myth, entrepreneurs are born, not made. Now, this is a mistaken belief because there is no genetic makeup of an entrepreneur. There were studies done in the 1980s where they tried to say, what are the traits of an entrepreneur? And all the research concluded that, well, there's things like intelligence and energy and all those things that are consistent with a successful entrepreneur. There are other confounding factors like great idea, passion for a specific idea, context. You have enough resources to launch the idea now, or you're part of a team that's going to do it. So there's a lot of things that mix together that make you an entrepreneur. Everyone has the potential to become one. Some have the more innate ability to have insight. Some are more motivated than others. Some have more energy than others and things like that. Some other, in terms of the born not made, here are some of the traits that have been identified. Again, I wouldn't get hung up on this too much, but again, these kinds of traits make people successful in almost any path of work. The second myth, entrepreneurs are gamblers. You know, they go to Vegas, go to the tables and roll the dice, and you know, they put all their money on black, and that's how they succeed. They start their business, and all of a sudden, they put all their money into the business, and then they're rolling the dice. We don't like to think of that way. Well, it's true that people take risks. The risks are not straight out risks. We moderate the risk by effective planning. We do market research. We do financial analysis. We talk to potential customers, and we design our product or service in a way that hedges our bets, so to speak, and moderates the risk, because by the time we launch, we know this is something people want. We've priced it at a price point that they'll pay, and then we develop a marketing and management team to deliver those products or services. Myth number 3, that entrepreneurs are motivated primarily by money. It's naive to say that entrepreneurs don't seek financial rewards. That is out there. People want financial rewards in almost anything they do, in terms of work especially, but it's rarely the reason for starting the new firm. The entrepreneur, especially the people with the ideas, started because they can't let the idea go. And they're passionate about it. They want to launch it. They want to deliver this product or service to the public. If you start pursuing the dollar, the money, too early, that could be distracting to really doing the job you need to build a long-term sustainable venture versus something that makes a lot of money in the short run but doesn't succeed or survive past initial startup phases. Myth number 4, entrepreneurs should be young and energetic. The most vibrant age range for early stage entrepreneur activity generally is 25 to 34. But we're seeing with the aging of our populations that we're seeing entrepreneurs now in their 50s and 60s starting ventures. This is because one, people retire and they're living longer. So if you retire at age 60 or 65, odds are you're going to live another 20 years. And this is the time where you've amassed enough resources and there's an idea you want to launch, you have the time to do it and the resources to do it. Secondly, people are now, companies are right sizing or downsizing, and people find themselves out of work after working 20 years for a company. And sometimes, and hopefully they end up with a nice severance package or have other resources saved. And they say, okay, I'm going to use this opportunity to launch that business that I've always wanted to do. And lastly, I just want to mention, and this is, if you follow along with some of our other seminars and lectures, this is kind of this is the content that we're going to be covering. But the process starts with the decision to become an entrepreneur. That I've got an idea or I want to start a business. Step 2 is developing successful business ideas. This is what we call opportunity recognition and idea generation. And once we have an idea, we do a feasibility analysis. We write a business plan. We do a competitor analysis. And then we develop an effective business model. Step 3 is moving from an idea to an entrepreneurial firm. In this stage, we prepare the proper legal and ethical foundations. We discuss venture strength and viability. We build a strong venture team, and we start working on funding the venture. Step 4, managing and growing the firm. Here we worry about people management. So when you look at research on success of entrepreneurial ventures, 2 top things come out all the time: poor financial management and poor people management. And one issue is that companies are generally undercapitalized and don't have enough money to make it through the startup period. They burn through all the money they've invested in the business or borrowed for the business. The other side of it is people management. You've got to hire people with talent, you got to manage them, or else they'll burn up all your capital because they're the most expensive part of that operations. Then marketing, you got to build a strong marketing plan. You got to deal with growth pressures. As you grow, you obviously need more employees, you have more customers, you got to always make sure you're satisfying your customers, and all those things come into play, and you have to really get on top of that and manage that well. You also have to plan for growth and make that a strategy. I mentioned earlier about identifying different revenue streams and not having just one source of revenue for your venture. You can think about things like possible franchising or bringing on other partners. There's a lot of avenues you can go down to help expand your business. Then you also have to think about harvesting. At some point, are you going to hand your business down to one of your children or one of your own brothers or sisters? Or are you going to sell the business? But what is your goal for harvesting the business? I have some favorite quotes that I always like to end on in this first lecture. And this one deals with idea stoppers. The greatest difficulty in the world is not for people to accept new ideas, but to make them forget about old ideas. And that was from John Maynard Keynes. And it is so true. We find these paradigm problems in a lot of organizations and with a lot of people that there's new ideas, but we're always stuck about, well, we've always done it this way, or people aren't going to buy that because they expect this, or we stop people's ideas and stop them cold because we think about what's gone on in the past. And entrepreneurship truly is much more about the future. Another quote: if you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. I mean, this applies in almost every area of our lives, but the idea is that if you don't think you can do it, if you don't think you can launch that business, you're not going to. But if you think you can, you're going to be passionate about it. You're going to marshal the right resources and the right people and try to push it forward. And lastly, one of my favorite ones is to move the world, we must first move ourselves. That was Socrates years and years ago. So my statement is let's get moving. Let's come up with ideas and let's work on a strong feasibility plan and see where this takes us. Thank you very much.